The frigid mountain air cut through Special Agent Maya Reynolds' tactical gear as she positioned herself on the rooftop, overlooking the FBI command center. 3 weeks had passed since her unexpected assignment to the critical incident response team in Colorado, and each morning brought the same ritual, setting up her equipment in isolation while her male colleagues huddled together discussing strategy. Nobody suspected that beneath her quiet demeanor and standard-issue FBI credentials lay a secret that would soon change everything. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Maya had secured her position through exemplary scores at Quantico and flawless performance during simulation exercises. But the whispered comments began the moment she joined the elite hostage rescue unit. "Looks like headquarters sent us another diversity hire," they'd mutter when she approached. "Hope you don't break a nail during the real operations, sweetheart." The most relentless critic was Senior Agent Dominic Harlow, a towering former Marine with multiple overseas deployments, who'd made it his personal mission to remind Maya that she was wasting everyone's valuable time. Growing up in rural Oregon, Maya had learned marksmanship from her uncle, a mysterious figure who'd appear and disappear for months at a time. What her colleagues didn't know was that Uncle Jack wasn't just a hunting enthusiast, he was Command Sergeant Major Jackson Reynolds, one of Delta Force's most decorated operatives. "Never take a shot to prove yourself, Maya," he'd taught her from age 12. "You shoot to protect those who cannot protect themselves." But here, surrounded by tactical specialists and veteran agents, those lessons seemed like distant whispers. "I don't get it," Harlow announced that morning as the team assembled for briefing. His voice carried just enough to ensure Maya overheard. "We've got qualified operators begging for positions on this team, and they send us someone whose biggest achievement is graduating top of her class in classroom exercises." Maya's hands remained steady as she calibrated her communication equipment. She'd learned early that reactions only provided more fuel for their contempt. Instead, she focused on her breathing, the weight of responsibility, the lives that might soon depend on her judgment. "Your opinion is noted, Agent Harlow," she responded, quietly, never looking up from her work. "When it matters, I'll be ready." Harlow smirked, crossing his arms. "This isn't an academic exercise, Reynolds. When bullets start flying, book knowledge means nothing." The surrounding agents chuckled, but Maya tuned them out. She had more important concerns. The critical incident response team operated under relentless pressure, responding to the most volatile hostage situations across the Rocky Mountain region. Only the most elite agents qualified for these positions, and only the exceptional survived the psychological toll. As Maya reviewed intelligence reports, she caught sight of the small photograph tucked inside her credentials folder. Uncle Jack in his army dress uniform, his eyes reflecting the same determination she saw in her mirror each morning. He'd believed in her when no one else would. Now she was exactly where she needed to be, even if everyone else remained blind to her capabilities. What they couldn't see was that Maya's uncle had left her with more than just memories and basic marksmanship skills. He'd provided her with a training regimen reserved for America's most elite special operators, techniques in situational awareness, tactical positioning, and precision shooting that even her FBI instructors had never encountered. The morning briefing commenced with Agent Harlow presenting updates on a developing situation at a mountain resort 50 miles west. Intelligence suggested a domestic extremist group might be planning an operation during an upcoming international conference. As Harlow outlined potential scenarios, Maya noticed inconsistencies in his tactical approach. "The building's eastern exposure presents a significant vulnerability," Harlow explained, pointing to architectural blueprints. "We'll position our primary response team here, with secondary units covering the north and south approaches." Maya studied the plans, immediately identifying the critical oversight. The western exposure, with its elevated terrain and sparse coverage, offered a perfect infiltration point for an organized assault team. She cleared her throat. Sir, the western ridge provides clear lines of sight to 3 entry points. A single shooter from that position could effectively neutralize our defensive positions. The room fell silent. Harlow's expression hardened. Reynolds, this team has handled 17 high-risk operations in the past year. I think we understand tactical positioning. With respect, sir, Maya continued, satellite imagery shows recently disturbed ground along the western access road. Someone's been scouting that approach within the last 48 hours. Agent Thomas Chun, the team's intelligence specialist, quickly pulled up the satellite feeds. His eyes widened. She's right. Those tracks weren't there in yesterday's morning scan. Harlow's jaw tightened. Fine, we'll add a surveillance unit to the western approach. Moving on. The brief acknowledgement was the closest thing to recognition Maya had received since joining the unit, but she knew it wouldn't change their perception. One correct observation wouldn't overcome their deeply entrenched biases. After the briefing, Maya found herself alone in the equipment room, meticulously checking her gear. Agent Chun appeared in the doorway, hesitating before entering. That was good work in there, he said quietly. Not many people would have spotted those tracks. Maya nodded, thank you. Harlow's tough on everyone, Chun offered, but especially hard on women. Maya finished. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Chun shrugged. I was going to say outsiders. This team's been together a long time. Trust doesn't come easily. He paused. But they should at least respect competence when they see it. As Chun left, Maya returned to her equipment checks, his words lingering. Respect wasn't what she sought, effectiveness was her only objective. If they never acknowledged her abilities. But lives were saved, she could accept that bargain. The next morning brought news that would accelerate everything. Assistant Director Keller arrived from Washington, his presence immediately raising the alert level throughout the command center. We have confirmation, Keller announced to the assembled team. The Patriot Vanguard, a domestic extremist group, has infiltrated security at the World Economic Summit. Intelligence suggests they're planning to take hostages within the next 72 hours, likely targeting foreign dignitaries for maximum impact. The room tensed. The Patriot Vanguard had carried out 3 bombings in the past year, each more sophisticated than the last. A hostage situation involving international diplomats would create a crisis of unprecedented proportions. This operation will determine whether we prevent a national security disaster, Keller continued. You'll be evaluated not just on tactical execution but on your ability to adapt to rapidly changing circumstances. The stakes couldn't be higher. Maya caught Harlow staring at her from across the room. His expression wasn't mocking anymore. It was calculating, assessing. She understood immediately. He was determining how to position her where she would cause the least damage when the operation went live. The team dispersed to prepare, the atmosphere electric with tension. Maya slipped away to the firing range, needing the familiar rhythm of marksmanship to center herself. The facility was empty at this early hour, allowing her the solitude she preferred. She set up at the 1,000-yard line, a distance that most FBI qualifications didn't even include. Uncle Jack's voice echoed in her memory. Breathe through the anxiety, Maya. Let it flow through you without resistance. Then release it with the shot. Maya settled into position, controlling her breathing, allowing her awareness to expand beyond the immediate target. 3 shots in rapid succession, each one striking within a half-inch of the previous impact. A perfect triangular grouping at a distance that would make most military snipers proud. Impressive, came a voice from behind her. Maya turned to find Assistant Director Keller observing from the entrance. Not many agents practice beyond 600 yards. Maya quickly stood. Just staying sharp, sir. Keller approached, examining her target through binoculars. That's not staying sharp, Agent Reynolds. That's expert-level precision. He lowered the binoculars, studying her face. Your file says you grew up hunting in Oregon. Yes, sir. My uncle taught me. Must have been quite the marksman himself. Maya chose her words carefully. He had military experience, sir. He believed in being prepared. Keller nodded slowly. Agent Harlow has requested you be assigned to communication support during the operation. Says your field experience doesn't warrant a tactical position. He paused. What do you think about that assessment? Maya met his gaze. I think I can contribute wherever I'm needed, sir. Diplomatic answer. Keller smiled. Slightly, but not what I asked. Maya straightened her posture. I believe I'm combat ready, sir. My qualifications support that assessment, even if my team assignment doesn't reflect it. Indeed they do. Keller handed her a folder he'd been carrying. You're being reassigned to Overwatch position. Bravo. You'll provide sniper support from the western ridge we discussed yesterday. Maya's surprise must have shown on her face. Sometimes fresh eyes see what experienced ones miss, Keller explained. That observation about the western approach may have saved the entire operation. I want those eyes on the highest ground. He turned to leave, then paused. Agent Reynolds, your file contains some interesting gaps. Military consultations, specialized training exercises that don't match standard bureau protocols. Maya remained silent. I'm not concerned about administrative oversights, Keller continued. I'm concerned with results. Whatever experience you're bringing to this team, I expect you to use it if circumstances require. Understood? Yes, sir. After Keller departed, Maya opened the folder. The assignment brief placed her in the most isolated position in the operation, a mile from the main facility with no direct support. The position that would test both her skills and her nerve. But it was also the position that would give her the clearest view of everything, both the resort and her team's movements. She packed her equipment with methodical precision, preparing for what might become the defining moment of her career. Uncle Jack had always told her this day would come, when her training would intersect with opportunity and necessity. When that moment arrives, he'd said, don't hesitate. Trust what I've taught you. Maya was counting on exactly that. As the team gathered for final preparations, Harlow approached, his expression unreadable. I hear Keller reassigned you to Overwatch Bravo. That's correct, Maya replied, continuing her equipment check. That position is a mile out, completely isolated. If something goes wrong, you'll have no backup. Maya looked up. Are you concerned for my safety, Agent Harlow? His jaw tightened. I'm concerned about operational integrity. That position requires someone with actual combat experience. Then I suggest you take your concerns to Assistant Director Keller. Maya zipped her tactical bag. In the meantime, I'll be preparing to cover your approach from the western ridge. Something shifted in Harlow's expression, not quite respect, but a reluctant acknowledgement that she wasn't backing down. Just don't miss if you have to take a shot, Reynolds. Lives depend on it. I don't miss, Agent Harlow. The statement wasn't bravado, it was simply fact. The operation deployed. At 0400 hours, teams moving into position under cover of darkness. Maya hiked to her Overwatch position, carrying 60 pounds of equipment, her precision rifle, communications gear, surveillance equipment, and enough supplies to maintain position for 72 hours, if necessary. The western ridge offered perfect visibility, but required navigating treacherous terrain in darkness. By the time dawn broke, she was settled into position, a natural depression providing both concealment and a stable shooting platform. Maya methodically recorded wind speeds, temperature, humidity, and barometric pressure, all factors that would affect long-distance shooting. She established communication with the command post, reporting her position secured, then settled in to watch and wait. Through her high-powered scope, she observed the resort coming to life. Staff arrived, security performed their rounds, delivery trucks passed through checkpoints. She documented everything, noting patterns and anomalies. 3 hours into her surveillance, she spotted something concerning. Command, this is Overwatch Bravo. Security guard at the southwest entrance is checking credentials differently than the others. He's spending approximately 40% less time on each ID. Copy that, Bravo. We'll monitor, came the response, Agent Chun's voice carrying a note of interest. 2 hours later, the same guard permitted a maintenance van through with barely a glance at its documentation. Maya's instincts flared. Command, maintenance vehicle just cleared security without proper inspection. Request verification of scheduled maintenance. After a brief pause, Chun's voice returned. Negative on scheduled maintenance, Bravo. Good. Catch. Within minutes, Maya observed tactical teams moving into position around the resort's perimeter. Her earpiece crackled with Harlow's voice. All units, possible security breach in progress. Maintain positions but prepare for potential hostile action. Maya adjusted her scope, focusing on the maintenance van. The driver remained inside. Engine running. Another protocol violation that security should have addressed. Something was very wrong. Before she could report again, everything changed. The maintenance van exploded, sending a fireball into the morning sky. Simultaneously, 4 unmarked SUVs crashed through the main gate, armed men pouring out and rushing the main building. Gunfire erupted as resort security engaged the attackers. All units, this is command. Confirmed hostile action in progress. Execute emergency response plan Delta. Maya watched through her scope as chaos unfolded. The FBI tactical teams moved with precision, but they were facing a well-organized assault team. Through her earpiece, she could hear the commanders coordinating their response, but something about the attackers' movements troubled her. They weren't just creating chaos, they were deliberately herding people toward the resort's central conference center. Command, hostiles appear to be executing a prepared containment strategy. They're directing civilians toward the main conference hall. This looks like a planned hostage scenario, not a terrorist attack. Harlow's voice cut through the channel. Reynolds, maintain your position and report movement only. Do not engage unless directly ordered. Maya continued her surveillance. Counting hostiles, tracking movements, identifying potential weaknesses in their formation. The attackers had established control with shocking efficiency, suggesting military training. Within 15 minutes, they had secured the conference center and established defensive positions. Command, I count 12 hostiles with military-grade weapons. They've barricaded all main entrances to the conference center and positioned snipers on the north and east rooftops. The operation had shifted from prevention to crisis response. Through her scope, Maya could see FBI negotiators attempting to establish communication with the hostage takers. The tactical teams had secured the perimeter, but were maintaining distance to avoid escalation. Hours passed in tense standoff. The hostage takers had released their demands, the freedom of 3 imprisoned, members of their organization, and safe passage out of the country. They'd set a deadline of sundown, after which they would begin executing hostages, starting with the Japanese trade minister. As the sun began its descent toward the mountains, Maya observed subtle shifts in the hostage-takers' positions. They were preparing for something. She reported each movement, but her warnings received minimal acknowledgement as the command center focused on negotiation strategies. At 17:30 hours, with sunset approaching, Maya detected new movement on the conference center's roof. A hostile had appeared, dragging a blindfolded hostage toward the edge where news helicopters could capture the scene. Command, they're moving a hostage to the roof. Appears to be preparing for a public execution. Harlow's voice returned. Tension evident. All units hold positions. Negotiation team is making progress. Maya adjusted her scope, focusing on the hostage taker. The distance was extreme to 1,437 yards, according to her rangefinder, with swirling mountain winds complicating any potential shot. But she could see the Japanese trade minister clearly, his hands bound, being forced to kneel at the roof's edge. Command, they're positioning for immediate execution. Request permission to engage. Negative, Bravo, came Harlow's immediate response. Distance is beyond operational parameters. Hostage rescue team is preparing for breach. Maya's mind calculated rapidly. The hostage rescue team was at least 3 minutes from position. The hostage taker was raising his weapon. There was no time. In that moment, Maya made her decision. Her uncle's training took over, not the FBI protocols or standard sniper procedures, but the specialized techniques reserved for Delta Force's most elite operators. She adjusted for wind, elevation, temperature, and the Coriolis effect from Earth's rotation, factors most law enforcement snipers never even considered. I have the shot, she stated calmly. Reynolds, stand down. Harlow ordered. That's beyond any FBI qualification distance. Maya breathed out slowly, centering herself completely. Uncle Jack, this one's for you, she whispered, then squeezed the trigger. The rifle cracked, the bullet traveling for nearly 3 seconds before finding its target. Through her scope, Maya watched as the hostage taker dropped instantly, his weapon clattering harmlessly away from the hostage. A perfect shot at a distance few military snipers would attempt, executed with impossible precision. Silence filled the communication channel. Then chaos erupted as tactical teams seized the momentary confusion to initiate their breach. Within minutes, the crisis had shifted dramatically. The hostage takers, stunned by the loss of their leader to an impossible shot, began surrendering rather than facing an unseen threat they couldn't comprehend. Here's the clean script for CapCut TTS audio generator, with all scene directions and character names removed. All units. Hostage rescue in progress. Multiple hostiles surrendering. Maintain positions. Overwatch Bravo, return to command post. Immediately. Director wants debriefing. Agent Reynolds. That shot was measured at 1,437 yards, with a 15 miles per hour crosswind, at twilight conditions. No FBI sniper has ever successfully executed a hostage rescue shot beyond 1,000 yards. Would you care to explain how you made that shot? My uncle wasn't just any military veteran, sir. Command Sergeant Major Jackson Reynolds was Delta Force, a founding member of their sniper program. He trained me from age 12 using methodologies reserved for their top operatives. I never misrepresented my background, sir. My file shows extensive marksmanship qualifications. But I also never volunteered the full extent of my training. That shot saved the Japanese minister's life. Our breach team was still 90 seconds out when you took it. Why didn't you tell us who you really were? Would it have mattered, Agent Harlow? Or would it have just been another reason to question my presence here? Agent Reynolds, I'd like you to lead a briefing tomorrow morning. Every sniper in our program could benefit from understanding how that shot was executed. That is, if you're willing to share those techniques now. Yes, sir. I believe I am. Reynolds, that was the most extraordinary shot I've ever witnessed. You saved lives today that we couldn't have saved any other way. Thank you, sir. I was wrong about you. And I suspect I've been wrong about a lot of things. Growth opportunities, Agent Harlow, we all have them. It's done. I saw it on the news. 1 shot, 1 kill. Just like we practiced. They know about you now. About my training. Good. It's time they understood what you're capable of. The real question is what happens next. I think I'm going to build something, Uncle Jack. Something that will outlast both of us. The student becomes the teacher. Always knew you would. Quite the audience you'll have. I've had requests from 3 other field offices to join via video conference. I didn't expect this level of interest, sir. You rewrote the playbook yesterday, Agent Reynolds. People tend to notice that sort of thing. Before this begins, there's something you should know. I've received inquiries from several intelligence agencies about your background and training. My file is available to anyone with appropriate clearance, sir. That's just it. After yesterday, people are looking beyond your file. Your uncle's name has raised some interesting flags. Uncle Jack's service record is classified in several areas, precisely, which makes people curious about exactly what he might have taught his niece. The Pentagon called this morning. They're interested in establishing a joint training initiative. Apparently, your shot yesterday demonstrated techniques they'd like to incorporate into their own programs. Imagine that, the military wanting to learn from an FBI agent. I'm happy to share whatever might be useful, sir. Good, because after your presentation today, you have a meeting scheduled with representatives from Army Special Operations Command. They specifically requested information about your long-distance calculation methods. One more thing, Reynolds. Agent Harlow has requested to be removed as tactical team leader for your protection detail. Protection detail? The hostage takers. We're part of a larger network. After yesterday, you've become a potential target. Harlow believes he's compromised your security through his previous behavior. He's requested reassignment to standard perimeter duty. That's not necessary, sir. Agent Harlow is the most qualified tactical leader we have. That's what I told him. But he was quite insistent that his judgment regarding Agent Reynolds has been demonstrably flawed, his exact words. You made quite an impression. Yesterday, Agent Maya Reynolds executed what many experts are calling an impossible shot at a distance of 1,437 yards, under adverse conditions, saving a hostage and effectively ending a terrorist standoff. Today, she explained how she did it. She had prepared detailed technical explanations, ballistics charts, and mathematical formulas. But looking at the assembled agents, she realized they needed something more fundamental than technical data. The shot I took yesterday wasn't about mathematical formulas or specialized equipment, she began. Those elements matter, but they're not what made the difference between success and failure. What made that shot possible was preparation meeting opportunity, guided by a philosophy of absolute precision. Maya activated the presentation screen, showing not ballistics charts but a photograph of a young girl holding a rifle, standing beside a tall man in hunting gear. This is me at 12 years old with my uncle, Jackson Reynolds. That day, he taught me the foundation of everything I know about precision shooting. He said, "Maya, anyone can pull a trigger. What separates professionals from amateurs is the discipline established long before the moment of truth arrives." The room remained completely silent as she continued. My uncle served with Delta Force for 18 years, including operations that remain classified. His methodologies weren't just about technical proficiency. They were about developing an integrated approach to precision under pressure. Maya advanced to the next slide, showing a bullet trajectory diagram. Yes, I calculated wind speed, temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, Coriolis effect, and a dozen other variables. I can teach you those formulas. She paused, looking directly at the assembled agents. But formulas alone won't prepare you for the moment when a hostage is seconds from execution and you're the only option left. What prepares you for that moment is systematic training that integrates technical skills with psychological readiness. For the next hour, Maya detailed the techniques her uncle had taught her, breaking down complex concepts into accessible frameworks. She explained the breathing control that allowed for perfect shot timing, the visualization practices that prepared the mind for high-pressure scenarios, and the precise physical disciplines that eliminated variables from the shooting platform. In Delta Force, my uncle learned that the difference between mission success and failure often came down to milliseconds of execution and millimeters of precision. Maya explained. He developed a training regimen that prepared operators for scenarios where there would be no second chances. As she concluded the technical portion of her presentation, Maya noticed Agent Harlow leaning forward, his attention completely focused. Other agents were furiously taking notes, occasionally exchanging glances of amazement. "I'll take questions now," Maya offered, expecting technical inquiries about calculation methods or equipment specifications. Instead, Agent Chun raised his hand first. "Why didn't you tell us about your background when you joined the team?" The room tensed at the directness of the question. Maya considered her response carefully. "When I arrived, I was evaluated immediately not on my capabilities, but on preconceived notions about who belonged in tactical positions," she answered honestly. Explaining that my uncle was Delta Force wouldn't have changed those perceptions. It would have been dismissed as irrelevant or an attempt to trade on someone else's reputation. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of several agents who had been most dismissive. "I believed my performance would eventually speak for itself. Yesterday, circumstances required that it speak sooner rather than later." Another agent raised her hand. "Your shot profile indicates you exceeded the established parameters for even military sniper qualification. Are there other techniques you've been holding back?" Maya nodded. "Several. My uncle's training encompassed methodologies that aren't taught in conventional law enforcement programs. If there's interest, I'm prepared to develop an expanded curriculum." "There's interest," Assistant Director Keller interjected from the side of the room. "Consider it approved." As the questions continued, Maya noticed a shift in the room's energy. The initial skepticism had transformed into genuine professional curiosity. Even those who had been most dismissive were now engaged, asking substantive questions about techniques they could incorporate into their own training. Near the session's end, Harlow finally raised his hand. The room quieted, many aware of the tension that had existed between them. "Agent Reynolds," he began, his voice carrying a formality that acknowledged their changed dynamic. "Yesterday you operated outside direct orders to take that shot. Standard protocol would suggest disciplinary review for such an action. Yet you made that decision knowing the potential consequences to your career. Why?" The question cut to the heart of everything, not just the technical aspects of the shot, but the moral weight of the decision to take it. "My uncle taught me that protocols exist to guide judgment, not replace it," Maya answered. In that moment, I had absolute confidence in my ability to make the shot. The hostage had seconds to live. Following protocol would have meant certain death for an innocent person. She paused. I was prepared to accept whatever consequences followed, because the alternative was unacceptable. Harlow nodded slowly. "Thank you for that clarification." Something in his expression suggested her answer had confirmed something important to him. As the briefing concluded, agents lingered, many approaching Maya with follow-up questions or simply to introduce themselves. The isolation she had experienced since joining the team had evaporated, replaced by a cautious professional respect. It wasn't friendship that would take longer to develop, but it was recognition of her legitimacy within their ranks. Agent Chun approached as the room finally began to clear. "That was impressive. And for what it's worth, I think a lot of people are reconsidering some assumptions today." "That's a start," Maya acknowledged. "Harlow wants to meet with you before your Pentagon briefing," Chun added. "He's in the tactical planning room." Maya found Harlow alone, reviewing after-action reports from the hostage crisis. He looked up as she entered, his expression serious, but no longer hostile. "Reynolds," he acknowledged, gesturing to a chair across from him. "I'll keep this brief since you have another meeting to prepare for." Maya sat, waiting. Harlow seemed to be carefully choosing his words. "I've submitted my formal appraisal of yesterday's operation," he finally said, sliding a folder across the table. I wanted you to see it before it goes into official records. Maya opened the folder, scanning the document inside. Her eyes widened slightly as she read Harlow's assessment. Agent Reynolds demonstrated exceptional judgment under pressure, executing a precision shot beyond standard operational parameters that directly saved the hostage's life. Her decision to act independently when delay would have resulted in civilian casualty represents the highest standards of FBI crisis response. She looked up, meeting Harlow's gaze. "This is very generous, Agent Harlow." "It's accurate," he corrected. "And it's Dominic." Maya nodded, acknowledging the shift to first-name basis, a small but significant change in their professional relationship. "I also want to be clear about something," Harlow continued. "My behavior toward you since your arrival has been unprofessional and prejudiced. There's no justification for it. We all have our blind spots," Maya offered. "Perhaps. But leadership requires acknowledging them." Harlow leaned forward. "The tactical team is conducting specialized training exercises next week, focused on complex hostage scenarios. We could use your expertise in the planning phase, if you're interested." The invitation represented more than just professional courtesy. It was an acknowledgement that she had something valuable to contribute to the team's core mission. "I'd be happy to assist," Maya replied. "After my Pentagon meeting, I can review the scenario parameters." About that meeting, Harlow's expression grew more serious. "Be careful what you share with them. Military intelligence has different priorities than law enforcement. They'll be looking for applications that extend beyond hostage rescue." Maya understood his warning. Her uncle's techniques could be applied to contexts beyond saving innocent lives. "I know where to draw the lines," she assured him. As she prepared to leave, Harlow added, "One more thing, Reynolds. You've earned your place here. Nobody will. Question that again, I'll make sure of it." The Pentagon meeting proved more complicated than Maya had anticipated. Rather than the technical exchange she had expected, she found herself in a secure conference room with representatives from multiple intelligence agencies, all intensely interested in her connection to Command Sergeant Major Jackson Reynolds. "Your uncle's operational history includes several missions that remain classified," explained Colonel Harrison, a stern-faced Army intelligence officer. "Some of the techniques you demonstrated yesterday were developed during those operations." "I'm aware of the classified nature of his service," Maya responded carefully. "My training focused on practical applications, not operational details." "Nevertheless," Harrison continued, "we're interested in understanding exactly what methodologies he shared with you, particularly regarding your calculation processes for extreme long-distance targeting." Maya recognized the direction of the questioning. They weren't just interested in how she made the shot. They wanted to know what else she might have learned from one of Delta Force's most secretive operatives. "My uncle taught me precision marksmanship for defensive applications," she stated firmly. "Those are the techniques I'm prepared to share. His operational history remains his own." A woman in civilian clothes whom Maya recognized as CI leaned forward. "Agent Reynolds, your uncle's work with the Special Activities Division involved certain specialized applications. We're concerned about potential unauthorized disclosure of classified methodologies." The implication was clear. They were questioning whether Uncle Jack had violated security protocols by training his niece. Maya felt a surge of protective anger, but kept her expression neutral. "My training began when I was 12 years old with basic marksmanship," she explained. "It evolved over years as my capabilities developed. At no point did my uncle disclose classified operational details. The techniques I utilized yesterday represent universal principles of ballistics and precision shooting, refined through personal experience." Colonel Harrison seemed unsatisfied. "Your shot profile matches certain parameters that are exclusive to highly specialized training programs." "Or," Maya countered, "it demonstrates that fundamental principles, when properly applied, yield consistent results regardless of institutional context. The exchange continued for nearly 2 hours, Maya carefully navigating questions designed to probe the extent of her knowledge about her uncle's classified activities. She maintained a delicate balance, acknowledging her specialized training, while protecting Uncle Jack from implications of security violations. Finally, a senior Pentagon official who had remained silent throughout most of the meeting intervened. "I think we've established that Agent Reynolds possesses exceptional skills that could benefit our joint training initiatives without compromising classified methodologies. Let's focus on constructive collaboration rather than retrospective concerns." The tone shifted after his intervention, moving toward practical discussions about training exchanges between FBI tactical units and military special operations teams. By the meeting's conclusion, Maya had agreed to develop a limited training curriculum focused on extreme distance precision shooting for hostage SCENARIOs, carefully bounded to exclude military-specific applications. As Maya left the Pentagon, her phone buzzed with a message from Uncle Jack. "Heard you had visitors from my old neighborhood today. All good?" She smiled at his characteristic caution, even in text messages. "All good. Setting boundaries. We'll call tonight." The drive back to the FBI command center gave Maya time to process the day's events. In less than 48 hours, she had gone from isolated team member to the center of interagency attention. The shot that saved the Japanese minister had irrevocably changed her professional trajectory, bringing recognition but also scrutiny and new responsibilities. When she arrived, Assistant Director Keller was waiting. "How was the Pentagon?" "Complicated," Maya replied honestly. "They're interested in more than just shooting techniques." Keller nodded understanding. "Your uncle's reputation precedes him in certain circles. I've authorized a security detail for your protection, both from potential terrorist reprisals and from overly enthusiastic intelligence officers. Is that really necessary? Consider it an abundance of caution. The Patriot Vanguard has taken significant losses, but their network remains active. And as for our colleagues in intelligence," Keller shrugged, "let's just say I prefer to keep my agents from disappearing into classified debriefings." Maya recognized the subtle message. Keller was positioning himself as her institutional protector, establishing boundaries for other agencies' access to her expertise. It was both reassuring and slightly concerning that such protection was deemed necessary. "There's something else," Keller continued, leading her toward the conference room. "We've received intelligence about potential secondary operations by the Vanguard. Their leadership is apparently determined to demonstrate that yesterday's failure was an anomaly." Inside the conference room, Maya found the tactical team already assembled, including Harlow and Chun. The atmosphere was focused, professional, distinctly different from previous briefings where she had felt like an unwelcome outsider. "Reynolds, good timing," Harlow acknowledged as she entered. "We were just reviewing threat assessments." Agent Chun activated the main screen, displaying surveillance photographs. "We've identified increased activity at 3 potential targets, all within our jurisdiction. Based on communication intercepts, we believe they're planning a demonstration operation within the next 72 hours. A show of strength to counter yesterday's humiliation," Harlow added. "Reynolds, your shot didn't just save the minister, it embarrassed their entire organization. Their leadership can't let that stand without response." Maya studied the intelligence summaries, noting patterns in the surveillance data that others might have missed. "These reconnaissance patterns suggest they're evaluating multiple approaches to each target," she observed. "That's consistent with adaptive planning rather than fixed operational design." Chun looked impressed. "That matches our assessment. They're being more careful this time because they know we have a precision capability they can't counter," Harlow concluded. "Which is why I've recommended we position Reynolds as overwatch for all potential response scenarios." Maya looked up, surprised. The same man who had relegated her to communications duty was now advocating for her central role in tactical response. We'll need multiple shooting platforms prepared at each potential target, Harlow continued, entirely professional now. Reynolds can evaluate and prioritize optimal positions based on her experience. The planning session continued for hours, the team developing comprehensive response protocols for each potential target. Throughout the process, Maya found herself fully integrated into the tactical planning, her input not merely tolerated, but actively sought, particularly regarding sniper positioning and fields of fire. As the session concluded, Harlow pulled Maya aside. "I've assigned Chun as your security detail for the next 48 hours. Stay within protected perimeters until we neutralize this threat." "Understood," Maya acknowledged. "But if they do launch another operation, I should be positioned where I can respond effectively." "Already factored into our planning," Harlow assured her. "We're not sidelining our best asset when threats are elevated." The casual acknowledgement of her value, our best asset, represented a transformation in their professional relationship that would have seemed impossible just days earlier. That evening, Maya finally connected with Uncle Jack via secure line from her apartment, Chun maintaining discreet security outside. "You've stirred up quite the hornet's nest, kiddo," Uncle Jack observed, his gruff voice carrying both pride and concern. "Pentagon doesn't like when their proprietary techniques show up on CNN. I was careful," Maya assured him. "Focused on principles, not classified applications. Good girl. Some things aren't meant for sharing." His tone grew more serious. "But there's something you should know. The techniques I taught you, they came with a purpose, a responsibility." "I know, Uncle Jack. You don't shoot to prove yourself. You shoot to protect those who cannot protect themselves." "That's right, but there's more to it." He paused. "The Vanguard, they're connected to people I encountered during my service. Dangerous people who believe themselves patriots while plotting against everything this country stands for." Maya sat straighter, instantly alert. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying your shot didn't just save a hostage. It disrupted something bigger." His voice lowered further. "Watch your back, Maya. This isn't over." "We're already tracking potential follow-up operations," she assured him. "The team is on high alert." "Good, but remember what I taught you about assuming the worst while hoping for the best. These people play long games." After they disconnected, Maya stood at her apartment window, looking out at the mountains silhouetted against the night sky. Uncle Jack's warning lingered in her mind, adding new dimensions to the threat assessments they'd reviewed. Her phone buzzed with a message from Chen outside. "All clear, but staying vigilant. Rest well." Maya appreciated the update, but knew rest would be elusive tonight. Something in Uncle Jack's tone had triggered her instincts, the same instincts that had guided her shot at a seemingly impossible distance. He knew more than he was saying, which meant the situation was potentially more dangerous than even there. Current threat assessment suggested. She returned to the case file she'd brought home, reviewing the intelligence with fresh eyes, looking for patterns that might reveal deeper connections or longer-term strategies. If Uncle Jack was right, the Vanguard's next move wouldn't just be about re-establishing their reputation, it would be part of something more systematic. As midnight approached, Maya identified what others had missed, subtle connections between seemingly unrelated surveillance, data points that suggested a more comprehensive strategy than mere retaliation. The Vanguard wasn't just planning another attack, they were positioning for something more strategically significant. She reached for her phone to contact Harlow when the first explosion rocked the night, its concussion rattling her windows. Maya moved instantly to the window, seeing an orange glow rising from the direction of the federal building downtown. The Vanguard had made their move, and it was just the beginning of a crisis that would test not just her marksmanship, but everything Uncle Jack had ever taught her about surviving when you become the target. The explosion illuminated the night sky as Maya grabbed her go-bag, always packed, always ready, just as Uncle Jack had taught her. She was already moving through her apartment's rear exit when her phone rang. Harlow's voice cut through the background chaos of emergency sirens. "Reynolds, federal building has been hit. Multiple casualties reported. This is just the beginning." "I'm mobile," Maya responded, scanning the parking area before moving to her vehicle. "Chun, already en route to the command center. Get there now. We're activating all tactical teams." Maya drove through streets already clogging with emergency vehicles, her tactical training allowing her to navigate efficiently while processing what was happening. This wasn't just retaliation. The timing, target selection, and execution suggested something more calculated. The vanguard was escalating beyond anything in their previous operational history. When Maya arrived at the command center, she found organized chaos. Multiple tactical teams were gearing up while intelligence officers coordinated with local law enforcement. Assistant Director Keller stood at the center of operations, issuing directives with calm authority. "Reynolds," he acknowledged as she approached. "Glad you're here. This is worse than we anticipated." "It's coordinated," Maya stated, rather than asked. "Multiple targets?" 3 simultaneous explosions across the city. Federal building, courthouse, and the East Side power substation. Keller's expression was grim. "But that's not the worst part. We've received a communication claiming this is just phase 1. Maya's tactical mind immediately began calculating potential second-phase targets and optimal response positioning. "What's their demand?" "That's where it gets interesting," Harlow interjected, joining them with a tablet displaying a message. "They want you, Reynolds, by name." Maya read the message, her expression revealing nothing of her internal reaction. "The female agent who interfered with our operation yesterday will surrender herself at the location, provided within 2 hours. Or phase 2 begins. Multiple civilian targets have been prepared. Her interference has forced escalation." "They're personalizing this," Maya observed, her voice professional despite the direct threat. "Making it about vengeance rather than their usual political objectives." "It's about both," Chun added, approaching with fresh intelligence. "Our analysts believe the Vanguard leadership saw yesterday's failure as a personal humiliation. Your shot didn't just stop their operation. It revealed vulnerability in an organization that markets itself on tactical supremacy. So I've become a symbol," Maya concluded. "A target," Harlow corrected. "One we have no intention of delivering." Keller nodded agreement. "We don't negotiate with terrorists, especially not with our people's lives. But we need to understand their secondary targets immediately." Maya studied the city map displayed on the main screen, applying the analytical framework Uncle Jack had taught her for predicting asymmetric threats. "These initial targets are symbolic but functionally limited," she noted. "Government authority, judicial power, basic infrastructure. Their secondary targets will be designed for maximum civilian impact to force compliance." "Agreed," Harlow said. "We're looking at potential mass casualty scenarios, shopping centers, transportation hubs, public gatherings." "Not just potential," Chun interrupted, receiving new information through his earpiece. "Police just found an explosive device at Riverfront Mall. Evacuation is underway, but there's no telling how many more devices are planted." Keller turned to the assembled tactical commanders. "Deploy all available teams to high-probability targets. Priority is civilian evacuation and device location." As the teams mobilized, Maya noticed a pattern in the threat communication that others had missed. "Sir, the language here suggests inside knowledge of our operational structure. They knew exactly who took that shot, despite no public disclosure of my identity." Keller's expression darkened. "You think they have an informant? Or surveillance capabilities we haven't identified," Maya suggested. "Either way, they're more sophisticated than we've given them credit for." The implications were disturbing. Operational security potentially compromised. Team movements possibly under observation. Every tactical response needed to account for this new variable. We need to change our approach, Maya continued. If they're monitoring our standard response protocols, we need to create something they can't anticipate. Harlow studied her face, recognizing the shift in her thinking. You have something in mind. A counter-sniper operation, Maya confirmed. But not by the book. Something they won't expect because it's not in any FBI manual. For the next 20 minutes, Maya outlined a strategy that left even experienced tactical commanders silent with focused attention. Drawing on Uncle Jack's unconventional methodologies, she described a response approach that inverted standard protocols, positioning snipers, not at obvious overwatch points but in concealed, non-traditional locations that would give them coverage of multiple potential targets simultaneously. This approach requires smaller teams operating with greater autonomy, she explained. Two-person units positioned here and here, she indicated on the map. Mobile, adaptable, and communicating on encrypted channels separate from main. Tactical frequencies. That's not standard protocol, one commander objected. Which is precisely why it will work, Harlow supported her. They're expecting our playbook responses. Reynolds is suggesting we throw out the playbook. Keller considered the proposal, weighing operational orthodoxy against the unusual circumstances. Who would lead these teams? I would, Maya stated. Simply, with Agent Harlow coordinating tactical oversight. The room fell silent, the significance of the moment apparent to everyone. 3 days ago, Maya had been marginalized and isolated within the team. Now she was proposing to lead a critical counter-terrorism operation using methodologies that challenged institutional norms. You realize what you're asking, Keller said quietly. If this goes wrong, then it's on me, Maya acknowledged. But these people have studied our standard responses. They're prepared for them. We need to show them something they haven't prepared for. Keller looked to Harlow, whose nod was barely perceptible but decisive. Make it happen, Keller ordered. But Reynolds, I want constant communication, clearly defined engagement parameters. Understood, sir. As the specialized teams were assembled, Maya found herself in the armory selecting equipment that would enable the mobility her strategy required. The standard sniper kit was too bulky for the rapid repositioning she envisioned. Instead, she selected a more compact precision rifle with folding stock and specialized optics, equipment typically reserved for covert operations rather than urban counterterrorism. Harlow found her there, making final adjustments to her equipment. The teams are ready. Chun will be your spotter. Maya nodded. Chun was the logical choice, skilled, adaptable, and now one of the few team members she genuinely trusted. There's something else you should know, Harlow continued, his voice lower. We've received intelligence suggesting the Vanguard's leadership includes former military special operations personnel, people with training comparable to your uncle's. The information confirmed Maya's suspicions, but added new dimensions to the threat. She wasn't just facing ideological extremists. She was potentially facing adversaries with specialized tactical training. That explains their operational sophistication, she acknowledged. And why they're taking my intervention so personally. Professional pride. Exactly. This isn't just about their cause anymore. It's about proving they can't be outmatched tactically. Harlow's expression conveyed concern beyond professional assessment. Be careful out there, Reynolds. These people aren't just dangerous, they're personally motivated. Understood. Maya completed her equipment check. But personal motivation creates predictable patterns. We can use that. 30 minutes later, Maya and Chun were positioned in an abandoned office building that provided sight lines to 3 high-probability targets: the Central Transit Station, City Plaza, and western entrance to Riverfront Mall. The location violated Every principle of standard sniper positioning, too central. Insufficient egress options. Limited elevation advantage, which was precisely why Maya had selected it. Anyone with tactical training would dismiss it immediately as unsuitable. 2 more devices located and contained, Chun reported, monitoring communications. But something doesn't add up. These devices were too easily found. Maya had been thinking the same thing. They're diversions, getting us to deploy resources in predictable patterns while they prepare their actual objective. Which is what? If I were planning this operation, Maya reasoned, I'd use the initial phase to evaluate response protocols, identify command vulnerabilities, and position for a decisive second strike against a target with both symbolic and practical significance. Chun considered this analysis. The governor is holding a crisis response meeting at City Hall in 30 minutes. Bringing together emergency services leadership, law enforcement command, and civil authorities. Maya immediately recognized the strategic value of such a target. That's it. If they could decapitate crisis response leadership, they'd create chaos across multiple agencies simultaneously. But City Hall has been locked down since the first explosions. Full security sweep, reinforced perimeter, aerial surveillance. Those are defensive measures against frontal assault or planted devices, Maya pointed out. What about long-distance threats? Chun checked the city map on his tablet. City Hall is surrounded by higher buildings within. Wait. His expression changed as he calculated distances. The nearest building with sufficient elevation for a clear shot is 1,500 yards away, beyond conventional sniper range, Maya noted. But not impossible for someone with specialized training. They exchanged a look of mutual understanding. The vanguard wasn't just planning bombings. They were positioning for a precision strike against leadership, a demonstration that would announce their capabilities far more effectively than anonymous explosions. We need to move, Maya decided, already packing her equipment. Radio Harlow. Tell him to maintain visible security presence around City Hall, but quietly evacuate the Puffin. Leadership to alternate locations. Make it look routine. Shift changes, normal security protocols. Nothing that signals we've identified their actual target. As they moved through service corridors toward their vehicle, Chun relayed the information to Tactical Command. Harlow's response was immediate. Implementing now. Where are you heading? Northeast Tower, Maya replied. If I'm right, the position on the construction site at Westridge Point. It's the only location with both the elevation and concealment for a shot of that distance. That's over a mile from City Hall, Harlow observed. You think they have that capability? If they've recruited former Special Operations personnel, absolutely. Maya's certainty came from understanding exactly what Uncle Jack's training had made possible. We're en route now. Have a secondary team approach from the south side, but maintain maximum distance until we confirm. The Westridge Point development was a half-constructed luxury apartment complex, its skeleton of concrete and steel creating a perfect urban hide site, multiple elevation options, concealed approaches, and commanding views across the government district. As Maya and Chun approached using a maintenance access road, they maintained communication silence, relying on hand signals and pre-planned movements. Maya's instincts drew her toward the 19th floor of the structure, still open to the elements with plastic sheeting flapping in the night breeze. It offered the optimal combination of elevation, stability, and concealment for a precision shot at extreme distance. They cleared each floor methodically, moving with the silent efficiency that came from Uncle Jack's training. On the 17th floor, Maya froze, raising her fist in the universal signal to stop. Chun immediately went still beside her. Maya pointed to a barely visible tripwire stretched across the stairwell, professional grade, nearly invisible in the dim emergency lighting. Someone had prepared this position and secured their approach. Using hand signals, Maya indicated an alternative route through the elevator shaft. They backtracked and found the service ladder, ascending with painful slowness to minimize any sound that might alert those above. As they reached the 19th floor, Maya detected what most would have missed, the subtle disturbance in construction dust that indicated recent movement, the almost imperceptible shift in air currents that suggested altered ventilation patterns. From someone controlling their breathing. A sniper was already in position. Maya signaled to Chun, indicating positions and approach vectors. They separated, creating a pincer movement that would allow them to converge on the suspected location. From two directions. Moving with glacial patience, Maya edged forward until she could see into the northeast corner of the floor. There, positioned behind a makeshift shooting platform constructed from construction materials, lay a man in tactical gear, a high-powered rifle with advanced optics trained towards City Hall in the distance. Maya could have taken the shot immediately. He was unaware of her presence, focused entirely on his target. But Uncle Jack had taught her that understanding your adversary was as important as neutralizing them. She needed to know if he was alone, if communications were active, if secondary teams were positioned elsewhere. She signaled to Chun to maintain position while she continued her approach. The floor was littered with construction debris, making silent movement nearly impossible. Maya compensated by timing her advances with the gusting wind that rattled the plastic sheeting throughout the floor. When she was within 15 feet of the sniper, she deliberately dislodged a small piece of concrete, causing it to skitter across the floor. The sniper reacted with professional speed, rolling away from his position and drawing a sidearm in one fluid motion. But Maya was already moving, closing the distance before he could acquire her as a target. "Federal agent," she announced, her rifle trained on his center mass. "Drop your weapon." The man froze, assessing her with the calculating gaze of someone with professional training. His eyes narrowed slightly as recognition dawned. "You're her, the shot taker." Maya maintained her position, aware that Chun had now moved to cover. The floor's other access points. "Drop your weapon. Last warning." Instead of complying, the man smiled. "You think you've won something here? This is just one position of many." "I know," Maya acknowledged. "That's why we've evacuated City Hall. Your target is already gone." Something shifted in the man's expression, not fear, but a grudging professional respect. "Nicely done. How did you figure it out?" "Because it's what I would have done," Maya answered truthfully. "The bombings were never your primary objective. They were positioning moves." "Smart girl, your file didn't exaggerate." The casual reference to a file confirmed Maya's suspicion that the Vanguard had access to internal information. "Who are you working with inside federal law enforcement?" The man's smile widened. "You should be asking who we're not working with." Before Maya could press further, her earpiece crackled with Harlow's voice. "Reynolds, secondary explosive devices detonated at evacuation routes. This was a multi-layered trap. What's your status?" The momentary distraction was all the sniper needed. He lunged toward a detonator device partially concealed beside his rifle position. Maya fired once. The shot struck with precision, incapacitating his arm before he could reach the detonator. The man grunted in pain but maintained his professional composure. "Impressive reaction time," he acknowledged through gritted teeth. "Your uncle taught you well." The specific reference to Uncle Jack sent a chill through Maya. This wasn't random. The Vanguard had deliberately targeted her, with specific knowledge of her background and training. "How do you know about my uncle?" she demanded, securing the man's weapons while Chun called in their position. "We know everything about Command Sergeant Major Reynolds and his favorite niece," the man replied. "Did you think you were the only one he trained?" The implication landed like a physical blow. Maya kept her expression neutral, but her mind raced through the possibilities. Could Uncle Jack have trained others? Was this man claiming some connection to Delta Force operations? You're lying, she stated flatly, checking his tactical gear for additional weapons or devices. Am I? Ask him about Operation Stillwater. 1998. Ask him who else was on that team. Maya found no identification on the man, which itself was telling. Professional operators often went into high-risk operations without ID, prepared for capture or death without compromise. Harlow and a tactical team arrived minutes later, securing the prisoner and the sniper position. The detonator proved to be connected to explosive devices planted throughout the building, a failsafe designed to eliminate evidence and operators if the position was compromised. You were right, Harlow told Maya as explosives experts disarmed the devices. This was their primary operation. The bombings were diversionary. Not entirely, Maya corrected. The secondary explosions at evacuation routes suggest a comprehensive plan. They anticipated our response at every stage. Which means they're not finished, Harlow concluded. Maya's phone vibrated with an incoming message. The number was blocked, but she knew immediately who it was from. Need to talk. Not secure. Meet at location Stillwater, now. Uncle Jack never used that designation lightly. Stillwater was their emergency protocol, a predetermined meeting location to be used only in dire circumstances. I need to step out, Maya told Harlow. There's a source I need to contact regarding the Vanguard's leadership. Harlow studied her face, clearly sensing she was withholding something. Reynolds were in the middle of an active terrorist event. Whatever you're thinking, trust me, Maya interrupted. This could be critical to understanding what we're facing. I'll maintain communication and return as soon as possible. After a moment's hesitation, Harlow nodded. Take Chun with you. This contact will only speak to me alone, Maya countered. 30 minutes, that's all I need. Against protocol and better judgment, Harlow reluctantly agreed. Here's the clean script for CapCut TTS. Audio generator with all scene directions and character names removed. 30 minutes. Then I send a team to find you. You're taking an enormous risk coming here. Necessary risk. What did he tell you? The sniper? He mentioned Stillwater, 1998. Said I should ask you who else was on that team. Thomas Farrow. Has to be. Who is he? Former Delta, specialized in counter-sniper operations. We served together for 6 years, including Stillwater. He was exceptional, maybe the best natural shooter I ever trained. But he had problems with authority, with boundaries. He was discharged? Officially, yes. Unofficially, he was recruited by elements within intelligence services for operations that required plausible deniability. The kind of operations that exist in the spaces between agencies, between oversight mechanisms. And now he's working with domestic terrorists? It's more complicated than that. Farrow doesn't believe he's a terrorist. He believes he's a patriot fighting against corrupt institutions. Men like him see themselves as the last line of defense against governmental overreach. They twist legitimate concerns about civil liberties into justifications for violence. He mentioned my file. Said the Vanguard knows everything about me, about us. Because Farrow trained their operational teams using the same methodologies I taught you. He knows exactly how you think, how you calculate, how you respond to threats. That's why they've made this personal. So when I took that shot at the hostage crisis, you didn't just save a hostage. You humiliated Farrow's training program. Proved that his operatives could be outmatched using his own techniques. For someone like Thomas, that's unforgivable. Professional and personal pride wrapped together. How do I fight someone who knows everything I know? By remembering that I didn't teach you everything I taught him. What? There are techniques I developed after Farrow left Delta, approaches he's never seen. This contains operational methodologies I've never shared with anyone except you, and never completely. Until now. Pharaoh thinks he knows how you operate because he knows how I trained him. He doesn't understand that the best training isn't about techniques, it's about adaptation. About evolving beyond what you were taught. This is beyond classified. Some things matter more than classification. They've made this about us, about our family. That makes it personal for me too. I need to get back. They're expecting me. Before you go, Pharaoh won't stop. He can't. His reputation, his professional identity, is built on tactical supremacy. Your shot destroyed that. He'll keep escalating. Until he proves he can beat you at your own game. Or until I stop him. Be careful, Maya. Pharaoh trained some of the most dangerous operators I've ever known. And he knows exactly who you are. Remember what I taught you about the difference between shooting and fighting. Shooting is about precision. Fighting is about will. You cut it close. Find what you needed, more than I expected. We're dealing with something beyond standard domestic terrorism. The Vanguard's operational leadership includes former Delta Force with specific counter-sniper training. How reliable is this information? Completely reliable. My uncle confirmed it. Your source was Command Sergeant Major Reynolds himself. Yes, and he provided intelligence about their likely operational approach. The Vanguard's lead tactical advisor is Thomas Pharaoh, former Delta Force. He served with my uncle, trained under the same programs. So they've been specifically preparing to counter FBI tactical response using insider methodologies. Exactly, which means we need to completely revise our approach. These are advanced counter-sniper techniques developed after Pharaoh left service. He won't be familiar with them. This isn't just about stopping the immediate threat. It's about demonstrating that their tactical advantage has been neutralized. These people operate on psychology as much as ideology, proving we can outmatch them technically may be more effective than conventional counterterrorism approaches. You're suggesting we beat them at psychological warfare rather than just tactical response. Yes, sir. Pharaoh has positioned this as a direct challenge to our capabilities. Responding in kind may be the most effective way to disrupt their operational confidence. Beautiful morning. Shame about the circumstances. The calm before the next storm. You really think Pharaoh's planning something else? We've neutralized his sniper position, contained his explosives, evacuated his targets. I know he is. This isn't just an operation for him, it's personal validation. He needs to prove his methodology superior, especially after we thwarted his primary plan, because of you. You're the X factor he didn't account for, not entirely. He knew about me, had a file on me. What he didn't anticipate was that I'd recognize his strategic approach. Men like Pharaoh believe in the perfection of their systems. When those systems fail, they don't question the approach, they intensify it. You sound like you know him. I know the mindset. It's not so different from what I encountered here. Absolute confidence in established methodologies, resistance to outside perspectives, certainty that experience trumps adaptation. The comparison landed with precision. Harlow nodded slowly, acknowledging its truth. Fair point. Though I'd like to think I've evolved past that. You have, Maya confirmed. That's what separates professionals from ideologues. The capacity to recognize when your approach needs to change. Their conversation was interrupted by Agent Chun rushing onto the roof. We've got something. Surveillance just picked up communication chatter using patterns matching Vanguard protocols. They're mobilizing. Back in the command center, the tactical team had assembled around a digital map displaying potential targets based on the intercepted communications. Pattern analysis suggests they're concentrating on this area, Chun explained, highlighting a section of downtown. But we can't identify the specific target. Maya studied the map, applying the psychological framework Uncle Jack had outlined for understanding Pharaoh's operational thinking. He's changing approaches, she realized. The first phase used physical infrastructure targets. to create predictable response patterns. This will be different, something designed to demonstrate tactical superiority rather than just cause damage. Like what? Keller asked. A direct challenge, Maya answered, her certainty growing as she processed the implications. Something that forces us to engage on his terms, where he believes his training gives him the advantage. As if confirming her analysis, a communication arrived addressed specifically to FBI Tactical Command. The message was concise. Previous demonstration established vulnerability. Final phase offers opportunity for resolution. Send Agent Reynolds to Highland Park Observation Tower, alone, 1200 hours. Alternative is simultaneous detonation at 3 civilian locations. This concludes our communication. The room fell silent as the implications registered. Farrow was demanding a direct confrontation, sniper against sniper, with civilian lives as leverage. It's a trap, Harlow stated immediately, designed to isolate and eliminate Reynolds. Obviously, Keller agreed. But we can't ignore the threat against civilian targets either. Maya read the message again, seeing beyond its explicit content to the psychological strategy behind it. He's not just trying to eliminate me. He's creating a scenario where he can demonstrate tactical superiority. This is about proving his methodologies work, validating his professional identity. Regardless of motivation, we're not sending you alone to face a Delta-trained sniper, Harlow insisted. No, Maya agreed. We're going to do something he won't expect. We're going to change the rules of engagement. For the next hour, Maya outlined a counter-strategy drawing on Uncle Jack's advanced methodologies, creating an approach that would neutralize Farrow's anticipated advantages while protecting potential civilian targets. The plan was unconventional, violating standard protocols in favor of asymmetric tactics designed specifically to counter Farrow's operational framework. This approach carries significant risks, Keller observed after she finished, both operational and institutional. So does following conventional responses against an adversary who's specifically trained to exploit them, Maya countered. Farrow expects us to either send me into his trap or refuse and trigger his backup plan. He's not expecting us to completely change the paradigm of engagement. And if we fail, then I take full responsibility, Maya stated firmly. But this is our best option for neutralizing the threat while minimizing civilian casualties. After intense debate, Keller finally approved the operation with one modification. Harlow will command the tactical element. You'll be operational lead for the sniper component, but I want his experience backing the overall execution. Maya nodded acceptance. That works. We'll need his tactical team's coordination for the peripheral elements anyway. As the teams prepared, Harlow approached Maya privately. You're putting everything on the line with this approach. Your career, potentially your life. Some things matter more than professional standing, Maya replied, echoing Uncle Jack's words. Like what? Like proving that adaptability ultimately trumps rigid methodology. Like showing that the most dangerous weapon isn't a rifle or explosives. It's the mind behind them. Maya checked her equipment with practiced efficiency. Farrow believes his training makes him untouchable. I intend to demonstrate otherwise. At 1100 hours, the operation commenced. Rather than approaching the Highland Park Tower directly, Maya implemented a dispersed response network, multiple small teams, positioned in a strategic pattern around the designated meeting point, using communication protocols derived from Uncle Jack's notebook rather than standard FBI channels. Maya herself took position not at the observation tower, but at an alternative location with similar sightlines to the park. If Farrow was monitoring standard tactical frequencies, he would detect the FBI's visible security perimeter, but not the secondary network operating on different parameters. All elements in position, came Chun's voice through her specialized earpiece. No sign of hostile presence at primary location. He's watching, Maya responded confidently. Evaluating our visible deployment before revealing his position. Thermal scanning shows no anomalies in the tower or surrounding structures, another team reported. He wouldn't be detectable by standard thermal, Maya explained. Delta operators are trained in signature reduction techniques. Look for environmental disruptions instead, altered patterns in natural movement, unexpected stillness where there should be motion. As noon approached, Maya implemented the next phase of her strategy, a controlled, visible approach to the tower by a tactical team. Member of similar build and gender, wearing a vest that would register as body armor on observation equipment. The decoy would draw attention while the actual operational elements maintained their dispersed positions. Movement detected northeast sector, came an urgent report. Single individual, carrying what appears to be a case consistent with sniper equipment. Maya calculated angles and positions immediately. That's not Pharaoh, it's a secondary. Maintain observation, but don't engage. Her certainty came from understanding Pharaoh's methodology. He would never place himself in an observable approach vector. The visible operative was either a decoy or secondary support designed to draw attention from Pharaoh's actual position. 5 minutes to designated meeting time, Harlow reported from Tactical Command. Still no confirmation on primary target. Location. Maya scanned the area through her specialized optics, applying the observation techniques Uncle Jack had detailed in his notebook, looking not for the person, but for the subtle environmental effects their presence would create. A slightly compressed branch where someone had positioned, a shadow pattern inconsistent with natural light distribution, the absence of birds where they would normally perch. Then she saw it, a nearly imperceptible reflection from a window. In a residential building overlooking the park, 1,200 yards from the observation tower. The position offered perfect sight lines to both the tower and potential escape routes. More importantly, it provided overlapping fields of fire with the previously spotted secondary operative. I have him, Maya reported calmly. Denton residence. 9th floor, 3rd window from eastern corner. Confirmation required before engagement. Chun, positioned closer to the target building, deployed a specialized optical device that could detect the subtle heat variations of a human presence without alerting the target. Confirmed. Single occupant in position consistent with sniper setup. All teams hold positions, Harlow ordered. Reynolds, what's your assessment? Maya calculated distances, angles, and environmental factors with the precision Uncle Jack had instilled in her since childhood. He's positioned for maximum tactical advantage, clear lines of sight to our visible deployments, covered approaches, multiple egress options. Can you take the shot? Harlow asked directly. Negative, Maya replied, surprising him. Not from this position, and not without triggering his secondary operative. We need to implement crosswind protocol. Crosswind protocol was the designation Maya had assigned to the most unconventional element of her strategy, a coordinated response designed not to eliminate Pharaoh directly but to systematically dismantle his tactical advantages, forcing him to adapt to circumstances outside his anticipatory framework. Over the next 20 minutes, Maya orchestrated a precisely choreographed sequence of tactical movements. Teams shifted positions and patterns that appeared random, but actually served to gradually constrain Pharaoh's options without directly threatening him. Meanwhile, specialized electronic countermeasures disrupted communication channels that might link Pharaoh to his secondary operatives or explosive devices. He's moving, Chun reported. Shifting position within the structure. Appears to be assessing alternative angles. Good, Maya responded. That means he's recognizing the deterioration of his tactical advantage. Maintain pressure but avoid direct engagement. The psychological element of Maya's strategy was as important as its tactical components. Rather than confronting Pharaoh directly, She was methodically demonstrating that his carefully constructed operational framework was being neutralized by someone who understood it better than he did. Secondary operatives attempting to relocate. Came another report, moving toward northeast exit point. Intercept but maintain non-lethal approach, Maya instructed. We need him alive for intelligence. As the pressure increased, Pharaoh made his first significant error, attempting to establish visual confirmation of the FBI's tactical positioning by shifting to a more exposed vantage point within the building. I have visual, Maya reported, detecting the movement through her scope. Positive identification on target. Take the shot, Harlow authorized immediately. Negative, Maya responded. Not yet. We need to complete the psychological sequence. Maya's restraint wasn't about hesitation, it was about understanding the deeper objective. Eliminating Pharaoh without dismantling his operational network would leave the civilian threats intact. She needed him to recognize not just tactical defeat, but comprehensive strategic failure. All teams, execute final phase of crosswind, she ordered. The coordinated response that followed demonstrated the full evolution of Maya's tactical thinking, beyond even Uncle Jack's training. Teams converged on Pharaoh's position, not in standard tactical formation, but in an asymmetric pattern, specifically designed to counter the defensive protocols he would have established. Meanwhile, specialized teams simultaneously secured the 3 civilian locations identified as potential targets, using the intelligence gathered from the secondary operative who had been intercepted trying to escape. Pharaoh, his tactical advantages neutralized and his operational network compromised, attempted a desperate repositioning to a predetermined extraction point. It was exactly the movement Maya had anticipated and prepared for. Target moving to southeast stairwell, Chun reported. Exactly as you predicted. All elements hold positions, Maya instructed. He's coming to me. The extraction route Pharaoh had selected, seemingly the only remaining option after Maya's tactical constriction, led directly through a narrow corridor between 2 buildings. Maya had positioned herself at the precise angle needed to cover this passage, creating what Uncle Jack had called a psychological funnel, a situation where the target's perceived best option actually led them directly into a prepared response. As Pharaoh emerged into the passage, moving with the professional efficiency of his Delta training, Maya made her decision. She didn't take the shot that would have eliminated him. Instead, she placed a perfect round into the wall inches from his position, a demonstration of precision that communicated more effectively than words that his life continued only by her choice. Pharaoh froze, instantly recognizing both the message and its messenger. Through her scope, Maya could see the realization dawn on his face, the understanding that he had been maneuvered into this position by someone who had anticipated his every move. Thomas Pharaoh, Maya spoke through a directional audio system that carried her voice clearly to his position. Your operational network has been compromised. Your secondary elements have been contained. Your explosive devices have been neutralized. It's over. Through her scope, Maya could see his expression shift from shock to a grudging professional recognition. You're better than your file suggested, he responded, knowing his voice would be picked up by surveillance equipment. Jack taught you well. He taught me that the best operators adapt beyond their training, Maya replied. Something you seem to have forgotten. Tactical teams converged on Pharaoh's position, securing him without resistance. As he was taken into custody, he made one final observation to Maya. You could have taken the shot. Why didn't you? Because this was never about eliminating you, Maya explained. It was about demonstrating that your entire operational philosophy is fundamentally flawed. Dead men learn nothing. I wanted you to understand exactly how completely your approach failed. The operation that followed over the next 8 hours systematically dismantled the remaining Vanguard network, using intelligence gathered from Pharaoh and his captured associates. By midnight, all explosive devices had been neutralized, secondary operatives detained, and support infrastructure identified. In the command center, Assistant Director Keller reviewed the after-action reports with an expression of measured amazement. "This is the most comprehensive counter-terrorism operation I've seen in 20 years with the Bureau," he acknowledged. "Not just neutralizing the immediate threat, but systematically dismantling the entire network's operational capacity." Reynolds' approach was unconventional but extraordinarily effective, Harlow added. "She didn't just outshoot them, she outthought them at every stage." Maya, exhausted but focused, completed her final report. "The most important element wasn't tactical," she noted. "It was understanding the psychology behind their operations. Pharaoh designed his approach around proving the superiority of his methodologies. Once we demonstrated those methodologies could be anticipated and countered, the entire operational structure became vulnerable." 3 days later, the Federal Building auditorium was filled with agents, law enforcement officials, and military representatives. The classified briefing had been arranged at the Pentagon's request to analyze the unprecedented counter-terrorism operation that had neutralized the Vanguard threat. Maya stood at the podium, her presentation materials organized with characteristic precision. The audience included tactical specialists from multiple agencies, senior FBI leadership, and representatives from military special operations, all drawn by reports of an operational approach that had defeated a Delta-trained adversary at his own game. "The Vanguard operation presented a unique threat," Maya began. "Not just because of their tactical capabilities or ideological motivations, but because their operational leadership had specific training designed to counter conventional law enforcement responses." For the next hour, Maya detailed the unconventional approach she had implemented, explaining not just the tactical elements, but the psychological framework that had guided her strategy. She described how understanding Pharaoh's training had allowed her to anticipate his responses and systematically dismantle his tactical advantages. "The most critical insight wasn't tactical but philosophical," she explained. "Operators like Pharaoh believe in the superiority of their methodologies with almost religious conviction. When those methodologies fail, they don't adapt, they intensify, becoming more rigid rather than more flexible. That predictability becomes their greatest vulnerability." As she concluded her presentation, the questions from the audience revealed the profound impact of her approach. Tactical specialists wanted to understand the calculation methods she had used for predicting operational movements. Military representatives inquired about adapting her psychological framework for counterinsurgency operations. FBI leadership focused on how her methodologies could be incorporated into standard training. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.